Hello, hello, hello! Welcome to Poetry Studio. Let me get my computer audio a little lower. Do that. And welcome to the Poetry Studio. My name is Joseph, and today is New Typewriter Thursday. I forgot to include that in the description, so we have a new typewriter on the desk today. It's a Remington Noiseless. This thing is a really cool typewriter with special mechanism. Let's see if our typewriter camera is aligned. Oh, what a perfect shot of our machine today. This Remington Noiseless. And obviously, we'll move the camera when it comes time to create some of those poems, but we are ready to do some streaming. Wonderful news. My mother has followed the stream, which is really cool because I know that I saw before, and hopefully he's still there, that Steve Disco Newsome is lurking in the chat, so welcome. Yes. So sad your channel, so I didn't miss you live. Yes, today the disco poem is happening. And but also my mother might be either going to be watching later on if she's still not awake, or she followed the stream, which was awesome. And it just makes me think about how Disco's mother follows his stream, his awesome DJ stream. And that, yeah, literally, I didn't ask her or anything like that. I happened to call her yesterday. She happens to have this week off, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I saw your Twitch show thing. I'm decided I want to follow it, so I'm gonna create an account." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And it's very similar to what you describe, Disco, which is that your mom was not tech savvy at all, and my mom is now GJ Poet Mom is looped in. So I don't know if she's in on the stream, but she'll at least be watching the replay where I highlight the typewriter. As I am going to try to do with every stream, I'm going to start with reading a poem. I just literally picked a poem at random because I was not good at planning that planning that part of it. I saw a, you know what, oh no, I think I already read that one. I saw one before. Ooh, this one might be good. This one is going to be great. I know that there was when you and Akira were talking yesterday, Disco, you guys were talking about how the propensity of DJs and alcohol to go together. This poem by the poet Billy Collins in his collection Aimless Love is about hangovers. If I were crowned emperor this morning, every child who is playing Marco Polo in the swimming pool of this motel, shouting the name Marco Polo back and forth. Marco Polo, Marco Polo, would be required to read a biography of Marco Polo, a long one with fine print, as well as a history of China and of Venice, the birthplace of the venerated explorer. Marco Polo, Marco Polo, after which each child would be quizzed by me, then executed by drowning, regardless how much they manage to retain about the glorious life and times of Marco Polo, Marco Polo. Hangover by Billy Collins. So now that we've done our poetry reading for the morning, I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to get into typing Disco's poem about disco and disco mutually on the typewriter. And look, we got art playing in the background, that famous Akira song that went viral. So the typewriter I have today, I'm pretty sure it is a 1949. I don't know how the year right on this because I still have to actually inventory and catalog my typewriters. But this is a 1949 Remington noiseless typewriter. So what these noiseless typewriters, the name is not a good name for it because you would think that if it was a noiseless typewriter, it would be noiseless. But alas, it is not. Still a pretty clankly machine, but it is definitely softer in terms, like, it does not have a thwack sound to it, and the reason why that happens is because these particular typewriters have a special mechanism for their keys. And what it is unlike the other typewriter keys, which have, do I have time to run to the loo? Yes, you have time to run to the loo. I will continue rambling on about this typewriter for the next 3 or 4 minutes, if you want. And then when you come back, just drop into the chat and I'll start your poem. So you can see here the mechanism on this, and I'm not going to just ramble on about it. But there you go. That's a good example of it. The design was that it would not, the type bars would not hit the platen so hard. It would just that they would come and kiss it. So in fact, if you type really hard on this typewriter, it's actually worse than if you just type regular. Whereas on regular typewriters, kind of smacking the keys down with a staccato rhythm is the point. So these typewriters, I cleaned this one and attempted to repair it on my repair stream yesterday. To no avail, because the specific piece that I was working on repairing it with broke on me. So the repair was unsuccessful, and it was unsuccessfully live. And so I was a little embarrassed by that, but still, this was a good, it's good to have this machine out again. And what we'll do is, at the end of the stream, if we do have a crowd, I'll put out, not really like an official poll, but I will ask people if they want to keep this typewriter or have a different one. The repair that it needed was that this thing doesn't have any margins. So if I go all the way to the left here, it's going to go all the way to the left to the end of the platen, and all the way to the right. The margin stopper is broken on the machine. But this is not an issue for me, because if you guys have seen my poetry before, I just, wander across the page like a, like a traveling typewriter. Let me get so just another view here of that machine. But yes, that doesn't faze me at all, because I can, I don't follow strict margins. But this typewriter would be very bad for someone who's writing an essay or a letter, which I'm going to write a letter on it anyway, because what you have to do is when you're resetting the line, you have to figure out exactly where it goes and then place it, and then you could write your line. Most typewriters, you automatically just and you reset it back. If you're joining us now, we're going to be doing a poem about disco in a little while. We have a couple of viewers in, which is great. We are just waiting for Steve Disco Newsome to return from the loo, and we are going to get started with our poetry. I am going to, probably today, because I really need to do this, I'm going to circle the note I put out there, is I'm going to put out a post of some sort, or at least set it up, to promote the fact that I will read poems on my morning show. And highlight poems for people. Oh, and he's back. So let's get started on our poem. All right, disco. So my gut to when it comes to a disco poem is to go straight to heartbeats, and it's something that I've done before. It's not a bad thing, and I might still do it anyway. The notion of heartbeats and you know, with the beats of music. But I always like to challenge myself and try to expand out of my typical metaphors. Not that that's a bad metaphor to be in. I will procrastinate by fixing my camera so I can do more front face of the poem. Turning off the light. Oh, put on my ink. Yes. I got absorbed by the poem, and I also noticed that my camera angle was off. Sorry about that. There we go. So you're able to watch the poem as it's coming together. The heartbeat is very important, says Steve Disco Newsom. I gotta get the chat on the screen so that my YouTube watchers will be able to know this stuff. House music BPM was originally set to the speed of the heartbeat. The idea was that once everyone's hearts were synced with the music, the DJ could control the energy in the room and also speed up or slow down. That's really cool. Really cool. Get this camera fixed. Guess that'll work. That's better. Okay. Enough jittery jabbering. There we go. Now you'll be able to see it a little better. Mom's on her way. LOL. That'll be wonderful if she joins in to see the stream. I'm really liking the way that this poem is kind of turning out. I'm definitely kind of by kind of trying to crack open that creativity and not that it would have been bad to just go with a heartbeat metaphor, but to kind of see what else can I throw in there. Disco has escaped the club. It's running around. It's causing amazing, wonderful, joyful chaos, and that is the theme of the poem here. Hi, Disco's mom. Oh, thank you so much, Disco's mom. So, what I do here is I do poetry on the spot. It's I have some music sometimes playing in the background, but it's for me it's more about the sound of a antique typewriter making its way through the internet. I'm sure that well, both of you, really everybody here except Twitchy or Alex remembers using one of these at a certain point. Maybe it might have been more of an electronic typewriter. To disco. And then I read the poem. So I am going to bring this down and we'll read our poem. So, Twitcher Alex says, I don't think I've ever seen a typewriter in real life. Well, I find that incredible. We'll have to change that. Absolutely. So, let me close my audio. So, escape from the club. The dance floor doesn't stop for no one. Fever funk of the daily grind with its smooth transition soundtrack. Now the indoor world is waking, sipping coffee and playing games to the beat that goes on. Disco didn't merely survive the crunch. It swung its hips into the cradle of Twitch and broke free of the bonds of Saturday nights. 7-day weekends spinning across the internet, across to the bedrooms and lofts and corners, conquering the entire globe and sending beams of beat light into every house. And mornings from Britain to Texas bless us with kindness. The creative hearts making a home in each request, each smiling face and rated space we didn't know existed. And when the on-air sign finds its glow, the classics become new again to this gaming generation, rolling the dice and reliving the heat of our weekend wild nights. Escape from the club. I hope that you enjoy it, Disco and Disco's mom as well. I can send this over to you and mail this out completely just on me. Thank you again for hosting an amazing stream. Well, I mean, there's a lot of feeling that I have about these things already when I kind of start thinking about the poems, but this one was, they kind of start taking a life of their own when I start writing. But I am really glad to write for you and was able to write this. And yeah, it was just it was a lot of fun. So I will send this out to you at a certain point if you want to whisper, if it works to send out for to an address. I know I'm a stranger across the internet, but at least you see my face. But if not, then I can send you a picture of it, and at least you have it that way, because it is an original typewritten copy of a poem. So. Now that we got Disco's mom on the stream, do you have a request for a poem, Disco's mom? I do take requests on the spot. This one was a little more planned because I knew it was in the pipeline. He requested it a few days ago. It's going on your wall. Well, thank you. Yeah, it fits in a 5x7. It works as in a 5x7 frame, and I have it signed to Disco. And that's why I like this. It's a poem to Disco, and it's a poem to Disco. It works both ways. So, does Disco's mom? Do you want a original typewritten poem of any topic, anything? You can just drop it in the chat if you feel interested. Otherwise, I just want to welcome you again to the stream. All right, that is a deal. Mug in return. I do have coffee on a semi-regular basis, so the mug will be helpful. And And then when I'm not having coffee with the mug, my wife and I will dunk Oreos into milk with the mug. So thank you so much all for the love in the chat. This is great. Really appreciate it. If there are no other requests coming through, I'm kind of thinking what I might want to do next. I may write a poem about reading poetry because I'm thinking about it a lot, especially as I hopefully can make the transition through this stream to be a place where I can help profile people's poems, highlight new artists, celebrate their work, and then kind of at the same time boost what I'm doing here to the poetry world. Walking Mall Poet, can you tell us the story of your name? Yes, indeed, this is an AMA chat. So, in a good way. So, there is a walking mall in our town. So, every time I say I'm the Walking Mall Poet, I don't think every time, but most times people think of me walking through a mall doing poetry. But that is like a shopping center, but that is not what it actually is. So a walking mall in our town, and I don't know if the terminology would get mixed up going across the pond, but it basically they took our main street in our town and they bricked it up. So it's only a place where you can walk around. It's like a nice town center. It's almost like a town square. They call it a walking mall because a lot of times what people do is they just walk up and down the walking mall. And so it's kind of like a mall in that sense, like an open space, a gathering space. So when about a year and a half ago, my wife got the idea that I should start doing poetry on the walking mall. She suggested it because I had some typewriters, I was trying to do submitting poetry, and she thought, well, why not both? So what I do commonly, this is actually not my main project, is I go out to the Winchester, Virginia walking mall, sit down with a typewriter, throw a sign out in a jar, and I write poems for people on the spot there. Taking those requests, doing it all on the spot. And hence, I just became the Walking Mall Poet because I was tied to that walking mall. And that was the origin of the name. Yeah, and it started early on. Like, I didn't change the name like I did with this stream, where I changed this name of the stream like 3 different times. This was originally the Morning Word Show, then it was a Morning Word Studio, and now it's a Poetry Studio, and it's stuck. That is the origin story of what I do in my name. Well, thank you very much, Steve. And mixing music for 4 hours and doing Stream Raiders and being like fully like immersed in the chat. You're like just dancing on everything there. And like every time like when I set the chat to like make you dance, I was like, oh my goodness, this poor guy, he's up there and he's doing all this stuff, like 5 different things at the same time. And we're all like, let's go, it's Stream Raiders. So I appreciate your talents as well in the music mixing department. It is incredible. But thank you, I do appreciate it. And all I want to do is just bring joy with words into the world. And I do write my own poetry, and sometimes my poetry gets dark. I wrote at 4 a.m. this morning, I happened to be awoken by a dream and wrote a poem about the upcoming election, which I'm not going to share on the stream today. But like I find that when I write for other people as part of requests, I just like being uplifting and doing that, and so and being genuine about it. Like, it's not just like, oh, everything's great, but like what I wrote about was true. Disco has escaped its bonds. And a lot of that DJing music has escaped its bonds, but especially disco is now flying around the internet across the world. I'm a guy in Winchester, Virginia. I don't think we don't have a disco club in town. I don't think there is a disco club like that would play true disco at least an hour and a half within my area, because I'd have to go out to DC, and even DC is not is not really a disco-y town. So like, would I get this anywhere else? No. And so it was really incredible. Disco says, I'm the forerunner of the Men Can't Multitask Association. It's actually what's great about doing the poetry on the typewriter is it becomes a single task work. And that's why I can hone into it so quickly. Like I actually have ADHD. I don't. When I say I have ADHD, I don't know how much I have ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was a kid. It's a whole complicated thing. But when I try writing poetry on the computer, I'm a lot more distracted. Um, yeah, and likewise. So yeah, and so um, I being able to hone in on just the things in front of me, and you might have a similar, like it's kind of like a multitask within a confined space, so it allows my mind to like bounce around, but do it in this space. So I could be thinking about all these different themes, like disco, traveling across the world, fiber optics, and putting them all into the same poem, but not having to worry about running off on Facebook and then spending an hour there. The typewriter kind of just the energy here. So this is fun. And it's a good typewriter too to be doing this on. So yeah, I think I am going to jam on one more. You know what? I think I'm going to probably call it for there this morning. This has been a good stream, and I want to go on a you want to go on a high note, and these are short streams that I do. I want to thank you so much, Disco, for being here. Tell Disco Mom how many typewriters you have. I have about 30 typewriters. I've lost count. I've got to kind of get them together and count them. They range from as old as 1918 to a couple of wedges from the 90s. And I call them wedges because I hate Oh, so Christine, I have about 30 typewriters ranging from 1918 to about like 1990, though some of those are word processors. My favorite is the one that's usually on the stream, which is an orange 1934 Royal O. I geek out about this, so you just got me started, Disco. My oldest typewriter is something called an Oliver number 9, and it does keys like this. And I'm gonna one day show that on the stream. I'm gonna bring it out, and it's gonna be like a big hit. Maybe I'll do that for the 100th stream, is bring out the Oliver, because the Oliver is just a weird, wonderful working machine. About a quarter of them, probably about a third of them are working. I have 10 machines where I could pull it out and type right now. And then I have 10 machines which may work, and then 10 machines that absolutely don't work. So I'm working on fixing a lot of my machines, and so I have a repair stream that happens every Tuesday from 2 to 4. That's going to be the new schedule. So that is making the old new again through typewriters and through all this, and there's a nostalgia attached to it. And I love it when people come up to me and are like, "Oh, what's this?" Like it's been years since I've seen one of these. And the most fascinating thing I'll end on is that kids absolutely love these machines. They absolutely adore them, because it's just all buttons and everything reacts right away, and they can understand it. They can see when they press down on the button, the key that moves. They can feel that. They can see the mechanism happening. Computers are great, and kids love computers as well, but computers have a sort of magic to them because they're so technologically incomprehensible. I can, as a person, with a lot of practice, of course, take stuff off of this and work slowly on it. Well, again, Disco, if you do check out that repair video, it's my second repair video, so I'm like experimenting with camera angles, trying stuff. I'd love your thoughts on it, actually, what can be improved and stuff. I don't have any overlays or anything yet on it, but just keep in mind that it is a very anticlimactic stream. I spend 45 minutes working on this machine. I clean it out. That works really nicely. You get to see me clean the thing out, and then I start repairing the back of it, and sure enough, I absolutely snap a piece. And so you will probably get a real laugh out of that, and I encourage you to laugh because I did too. It was stupid, but luckily it does not disable the machine. Yeah, there's definitely a power in a typewriter keystroke, said Steve Disco Newsom. And Twitch Hero Alex said it's like the old standard versus automatic transition discussion as well. And I think there's a place for both. There's definitely a place for, obviously, computer work, but like one of the more surprising notes of becoming a typewriter poet is when the editing process is in the editing process you have to retype with typewriters. When you're editing as a writer, you can just edit lines. You could look at your sheet and you go, oh, I'll take this out here. You copy and paste to actually do that. And I become more attached to my poetry through this machine. Like, it's not like, oh, I have 20 poems that I can edit. It's like, no, I'm editing this poem because I have to retype the whole thing. I have to once again go through that process step by step. And I think it helps my editing. And I hated the idea of retyping. When I first learned that retyping was a thing that people did for editing, like generally some people, even with computers, do it, I was like, oh, this is terrible. I don't want to do that. But the typewriter has shown me otherwise. And it's fun, and it's a good machine, and that's, yeah, it's there is a power in the typewriters. I appreciate that sentiment from Steve. So thank you again all so much. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Steve, aka Disco. Thank you to Disco in general, and thank you, Twitch Hero Alex, for coming on to the stream. Really appreciate it. All right, I am going to close out with our splash screen. If you want to follow my Instagram, that's where most of my social stuff happens. What I'll probably do is I post poems on the Instagram, and I have to kind of work on setting it up, but I'd like to possibly take a picture of this and post it and share that you're also doing an amazing disco stream, Steve, because it's really cool what you're doing. So I hope you have Instagram so that I can tag you in it, but I will share that, and we'll we have love going back and forth in the chat between Twitch Hero Alex and Steve Disco Newsome. You rock. You all rock. Yeah, and whisper to me where you want me to mail this, and I will get it out right away. I have international stamps. Believe it or not, a fun fact, my grandmother is originally from Lancaster, Lancashire. She doesn't get to go to visit anymore, but my wife loves London, so we both will one day be there in Britain, and we'll be able to actually visit you in person when in-person clubbing is a thing again. And sure. All right. Here is the ready for the screen grab. Let me make sure it's lined up. Oh, this is like a. There we go. 3, 2, 1. All right. Hopefully you got it. Thank you so much, and really appreciate everything that you guys are doing with the chat today and just hanging out here. Signing off. This is the Poetry Studio. I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. If you're watching this on a replay, thank you for being awesome. And if you're watching this in person, thank you for being so disco awesome. Thank you.